about the business continuity management system as per the standard ISO 22301. So you may have, some of you may know that there is a standard from ISO on business continuity. So this is ISO 22301 Foundation. Today's session will be only talking about an overview about business continuity. We will not go into any details, requirements, or any detailed methodologies or tools. We will just give you a brief and overview on what are the requirements of business continuity management system in accordance to ISO 22301 2019. So please, if you need more information, we will have other sessions specific to topics in the standard ISO 22301. So the standard ISO 22301 is published and established by the organization ISO. ISO is an international organization of standardization of national standard bodies for from over 160 countries. Oops, someone is playing here. The final result of ISO World are published as international standard. Until today, they have published about 22,000 standards since the organization has been established in 1947. The standards related to business continuity are first 22300, which is the vocabulary, and 22301, the requirements where you implement and get certified against that standard. 22313, it's a guidance on how to implement 22301, but you don't get certified for 22313. You only get certified for 22301 if you want to implement it. And of course, when you are doing any management system standard, you need to do auditing, and the standard for auditing is ISO 19011-2018. We have 9000 2015 as a quality management system. Then you have 27005 information security risk management, because when you do business continuity management system, you also need to make sure that your IT is working. So you might need to go to 27005. And there's a guidance 73 on risk management vocabulary, because in ISO 22301, you also need to do business risk assessment. So a standard for risk assessment is ISO 31000 2018, and there's 31010 2019, which is the techniques of risk assessment. Then we have the 22313, which give guidance on how to implement 22301. Another nice standard on resilience, 22316. 22317 is a document on how to do business and what's required to conduct a business impact analysis. Okay, because in 22301 business continuity management system, they ask us to have a business impact analysis. So 22317 would explain to us how to do a business impact analysis. So, and there's a standard 22320 on incident management. Okay, 22322 provide guidance for developing, handling, and implementing public warning before, during, and after incident. 22324, color codes to inform people of risk. Then partnership arrangement among each other, 22397, 22398. It provides guidance on how to plan, conduct, and improve the exercise projects. Part of 22301 is to, once you have a business continuity plan, is to exercise that plan, or call it test it, okay, try it, whatsoever you want to call it. So this is a standard that will explain to you how to do the testing or the exercising of your business continuity plan. Two organizations were behind this business continuity, the Disaster Recovery Institute International, DRI, and the Business Continuity Institute. ISO 22301 was published the first time in 2012, and then it was revised in 2019, and is a standard based on Plan, Do, Check, Act. Like all other management system standards developed by ISO organization, they are all based on PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act, and you can get certified against this standard. Some acronyms were used in the standard: BC, business continuity; BCM, business continuity management; BCMS, business continuity management system; BCP, business continuity plan; BIA, business impact analysis; ISO as international organization for standardization; MTPD, which is something you need to remember when you are implementing or establishing, developing, implementing, maintaining a business continuity management system. You need to have something called MTPD, which is maximum time of maximum tolerable period of disruption. So maximum tolerable period of disruption, MTPD, very important to remember that. PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act, SMG, the organization delivering this online session, Sustainable Management Group, and RTO, another term that you need to know from in ISO 22301, Business Continuity Management System, recovery time objective. So MTPD is the maximum tolerable period of disruption, and RTO, the recovery time objective, and you have other terms like MBCO, kind of minimum business continuity objective. So these are the terminology that you need to live with when you work with ISO 22301. So what is the scope of 22301? In every standard, every management system standard developed by ISO, you have a section 1 called scope. Actually, all management system standards today in ISO, they have 10 sections. 1 being scope team, 2 being normative reference, 3 being definitions, 4 context of the organization, 5 leadership, and 6 is planning, and 7 is support, 8 operation, 9 performance evaluation, and 10 continuing improvement. That's PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act. So the first clause of any standard in management system standard developed by ISO is the scope. So scope in the standard means why the standard is in place, why do we need to implement it, and what's meant to do. So here they say in the 22301 about the scope of the business continuity management system. This document specifies requirements to implement, maintain, and improve a management system to protect against, reduce the likelihood of the occurrence of, prepare for, respond to, and recover from disruptions where they arise. Though the standard also talks about risk assessment, we do risk assessment for our normal business, like risks that will not be considered as disruptions, but the main intent of the business continuity management system is to deal with disruption. And we are all living today with COVID-19, with a big disruption, a pandemic, that we are not working as we used to do working before, and some of us working from home, some of us are not working at all. So this is a disruption, and this is a big disruption that probably we haven't seen before, similar things like that, and we don't know how long it's going to take, but it's a big disruption. So business continuity management system aim is to deal with those disruptions and see if we can prevent them or prevent their impact. Now, it's not easy to prevent all disruptions, but sometimes if you may probably prevent impact of a disruption. Example, if you have a flooding, for example, or you see a flooding coming, you might put some barricades, some sand, some bags of sand, something in front of homes, in the street or whatsoever, to not to prevent the flooding from happening, but to prevent the impact of the flooding, because you have anticipated a flooding coming, so you are preparing yourself with this disruption. So I don't know if anyone was anticipating the COVID-19 coronavirus, but so we were not ready probably. But anyhow, this is a big disruption. So the aim of the 22301 business continuity management system is to deal with disruptions. How we can protect against, reduce the likelihood of the occurrence of a disruption. All right. Some disruptions are much more easier to reduce the likelihood of occurrence, and some are not. But we can try at least to see what to do if disruption happens in an organization and how we can go back to normal business with time. So this document, ISO 22301, is applicable to all types of organizations that would like to implement, maintain, and improve a business continuity management system, seek to ensure conformity with stated business continuity policy, need to be able to continue to deliver products and services at an acceptable, predefined capacity during a disruption. So this is important. Number C here, need to be able to continue to deliver products and services at an acceptable, predefined capacity during a disruption. So if there's a disruption, how can we continue delivering product and services to our customers. That's very important. Seek to enhance the resilience through the effective application of the business continuity management system. So this document can be used to assess an organization's ability to meet its own business continuity needs and obligations. So you don't have to be certified. You might have your own way of doing it, and then you can use it for this. 22313, as I said, is the guidance to tell you how to implement 22301. And in this standard clause, use the word should, not shall, because this is a guidance. So you cannot get certification against this guidance standard, but you can seek certification against 22301. There's a link between 22301 and 27001 for those of you that are familiar with ISO 27001, Information Security Management System. In Information Security Management System, there is a clause on Business Continuity Management System, which is a Control A17 that talks about business continuity management system. So if you have 27001, you have done some work on business continuity management system. So the basics of business continuity management system is the capability of the organization to continue delivery of product and service at acceptable predefined capacity following a disruption. So what is the minimum acceptable, how you can survive? Because at the end of the day, you have customers and you have your organization. So you need to supply your customers with the product and service that you usually supply them. So during a disruption, what is the minimum you can supply to them? And what is the minimum acceptable for you as an organization as a level of business, 10% of your business, 20% of your capacity, 20% of capacity, be able to survive and continue your business after the disruption. Business continuity management is the process of implementing and maintaining business continuity in order to prevent loss or prepare for, mitigate, and manage disruption. So we need to know how to manage disruption. The business continuity management system enables us to control, evaluate, and improve our business continuity management system. Why do I have this here? Okay. Disruption has the potential to interrupt. So when we have disruption, so it means that something will be interrupted in our business. So what we shall do now, we can wait until it happens and decide what to do, and this is too late sometime, or we can anticipate it and decide that we have a plan to deal with it before it happens. So to make a plan, we need to identify the organization, product, and services, and the activity that deliver them. So what are our products and services, and what are the processes? You see, in the business continuity management system, they say activities that deliver them. Usually, if you are familiar with quality management system or any other management system, you would say processes that deliver them. So consider activities in business continuity management system as the processes in ISO 9001, for example, quality management system. So here when they say, and the activities that deliver them and the processes that deliver them. So here, so we need to identify products and services that we deliver to our customer and what are the processes needed to deliver those, okay? And then analyzing the impact of not resuming the activities and the resources that depend on. So what would be the impact if we cannot resume, okay? Understanding the risk of disruption, what is the disruption and what's the risk? Then determine priorities. So part of our product and service, which is priority number one, priority number two, number three. So if we're delivering, for example, a range of product and services, which one is more important than the other that we need to continue delivering to our customers and for their survival and for our survival too? Within what time frame, what capacity, and what strategies? Capacity is meaning our capacities in infrastructures and resources, all type of resources, people, infrastructure, work environment, tools, techniques, technology, and whatsoever. And what strategy for resuming the delivery of product and services? Now, if you have a disruption, what is the strategy for us? So, for example, many of us today are working from home. So that's a strategy, working from home to deliver, but not everyone can work from home. This is very well known. If you are, for example, someone working in the construction business, you cannot work from home in construction. Okay. But if someone can do work like us, for example, delivering training or doing certification business, we can probably, and we not probably, we are doing it, we are working from home. So that's our strategy. Having solution and plan in place to resume the activity within the required time frame following a disruption. So what is how are we going to continue our business after the disruption? How can we do this? Okay. Any question until now? Part of the business continuity basics are once we put a plan in place and a strategy in place, we need to test it, making sure that these arrangements are routinely reviewed and updated so that they will be effective in all circumstances. You need to test your readiness when there's disruption. You cannot just wait until it happens. So business continuity can be effective in dealing with both sudden disruption, explosions, and gradual ones like pandemics. So like the one we are living with now, COVID-19 pandemics. Any question until now? If you have any question, please you can put it on the chat. All right. Okay. If no question, we can continue. Or you can write your question till the end of the session, and we can answer all of them, hopefully. So the purpose of a business is prepare for. We have to repeat that so we can remember it. Okay, someone might say, okay, we have said this already. That's good, but we need to make sure that we memorize it, we understand it. Prepare for, provide, and maintain controls and capabilities for managing organization overall ability to continue to operate during disruptions. So we need to do the following: supporting strategic objectives of the organization. This is the benefits for the business continuity system. Creating a competitive advantage, protecting, enhancing a reputation and credibility, contributing to organizational resilience. From a financial perspective, reducing legal and financial exposure, reducing direct and indirect costs of disruption. This is very important. We don't know if we're going to survive or not after disruption. From the perspective of interested parties, protecting life, property, and the environment, life of employees, life of staff, life of suppliers, life of customers, life of the public in general. Considering the expectation of interested parties like your client, your suppliers, your society, what they want from you during disruption and how they expect you to deal with them. Providing confidence in the organization that will succeed, so they know that they can have confidence in us, so they can continue working with us. Internal process perspective, improving its capability to remain effective during disruption. So, for example, in our company, during this disruption, we are making meeting, working from home, but we're still doing regular meetings. We're still following on how to do things. We're still talking to our clients, following with our clients. So that's very important. We had a communication with our clients, telling them how they can contact us and things like that. To demonstrate proactive control of risk effectively and efficiently and addressing operational vulnerabilities. Now, some myths and realities about business continuity management system. It's all about national disaster. Someone would say, well, disruption can only happen if there is a national disaster. That's not true. Disruption can happen because of natural disasters, and it can happen because of something else. Okay, for example, a strike in a country. I don't know, some unrest activities like we live in Lebanon now. Some October 17. So these are not natural disasters. These are human-made disasters, and they are disruptions. So they will disrupt our operation. Could have a IT failure. Could have something like that. So this is, you can have someone, for example, one of the business continuity main issue, if you have an employee in the organization, that's very important employee, and there's no one else that can do a job beside this guy, what he will do. This would be considered a disruption. If this guy is sick or is not working anymore, that's a disruption. Are you ready for that disruption? We have a plan, so we're ready. Some people will say, okay, we have put a business continuity plan, so we're ready. Well, that's not correct. You have to test the plan. You have to see if it is working. It works. So simulate disruption and see it does it work. If it works, then your plan is fine. We have tested our plan, so we are all set. Okay, test the plan for a certain time. So this is good. But okay, after testing it, was it working? Or do you review it from time to time to see if it's still valid? So we may test the plan today, and we have a test in 1 year. But what happened during a year? Are there any changes that we need to look at? The IT department is responsible for developing and exercising the business continuity plan. This is a big issue here. Some people think this only IT department is responsible for that. That's not correct. Everyone in the organization is responsible for the business continuity management system, not only the IT department. A business continuity plan is not necessary because your staff will always be there and you can count on them to do the right thing. Well, this is not correct at all. How do you know the staff will always be there? If you have people that will get sick, or people that cannot come to work, so we're not sure that will be all there. So we need to make a part of our business continuity plan to make sure resources planning and how we do resources planning, how we make sure that who is supposed to be there is there. And this will take us to one issue, very important issue, is the do we have in our organization people that can do other people's job? Or is it everyone they know only doing their own job, which is in many organizations, I know how to do my own job, I don't care about others' job. Well, this is not correct. So we probably need to have to make sure that one job is at least known by more than one person to be done. Business continuity plans and disaster recovery plan are the same thing. That's not correct. Disaster recovery is after the disruption. Business continuity is before. So we need to have a disaster recovery plan if there is a disaster, but business continuity is after, is before and during. So don't confuse two of them. Business continuity plan, disaster recovery plan. Disaster recovery plan is part of a business continuity plan. It's not the business continuity plan alone. One disaster recovery plan meets all scenario requirements. That's not correct. Every scenario, every disruption is different, and every disruption will need its own disaster recovery plan and its own continuity plan. Longer distance mean better disaster protection? No, that's not correct too. We cannot say, okay, because of longer distance, then we have a better disaster protection. IT and business users have the same interest in business continuity? No, IT has different interests and other people have different interests. So that's very important to remember these things that about business continuity plan. So the section 3, fundamentals of business continuity principles and concepts, business continuity plan, business impact analysis, authorize activities, disruption, and business continuity principles. So we talked about business continuity as a definition from section 3.3 in ISO 22301. Business continuity is defined in other terms, the process of analyzing and defining the critical business functions. So what are the critical business functions in our organization that we cannot afford to lose if there is a big risk or if there is a disruption? Okay, when there is disruption or disaster, what are the critical business functions that we need to make sure they still operate so that prevents the normal operation of the business? If they are not there, that means that we are not operating. Business continuity plan is the plan that put in place to deal with a disruption. So it has information about critical function and processes of the organization. So in the plan, we say these are our critical functions, these are our critical processes that we need to make sure they are in place. Identification of the system and process that must be sustained, what must be working at all times. Maintenance of the system and processes by taking into account potential business disruption. So part of the business continuity plan is the recovery team that is built by an organization which depends on the number of its employees and the type of disaster or incident to which it needs to respond. So we have a recovery team and they will intervene when there is a disaster or a disruption. Okay, so we need to make sure this is part of business continuity plan. Now, business impact analysis, functions and processes with the highest operational and financial impacts become a priority within a recovery plan. The time those functions and processes are recovered before the occurrence of any acceptable consequence is known as recovery time objective. So what is business impact analysis in general? Is when we deal with a disruption. See, in an organization, we do risk assessment. Risk assessment would cover any type of risk, any uncertainty that might happen, any operational risk, any hazard risk, any compliance risk, okay, that we might have, any opportunity risk that we might have, and we analyze it, likelihood, consequences of those risks, okay, and then we put controls so they don't happen. While business impact analysis is the analysis on the impact on the business when there is a disruption. Okay, risk assessment is about also impacts. When we do risk assessment, we are analyzing the impact of a risk on our business, on our operation. Business impact analysis, we are analyzing the impacts of a disruption on the business. Okay, we can start with risk assessment, we can start with business impact analysis, but we understand the difference between the two, that business impact analysis is the impact on our business, okay, analyzing the impact on our business from a disruption, from a disaster. So let's put it, some of you, if you are familiar with 14001 or environmental management system or occupational health and safety management system, in 14001, we identify environmental aspects and environmental impact. And that's the normal business that we do daily. Every day we work, we have an environmental aspect that will have an impact on the environment. But then there is a clause in the standard about emergency preparedness. Let's consider risk assessment and business continuity 22301 as the risk assessment on the normal operation, day-to-day operation, and the business impact analysis as the emergency preparedness. So this is a disruption, this is a disaster, there's an emergency. What is the impact of that emergency in our business from financial point of view, from resources point of view, from capabilities, from capacities, and whatsoever? And what is the risk, the recovery time objective that we have to put in place to make sure that we can survive? So prioritize activities. We have to make sure which activity that must stay in place. For example, as the server is always going to be there, IT service is there, internet service is there. Okay, so what is the activity that's priority for us, financial activity whatsoever, and what activities are not priority? So if they are not operating now, it's not a big deal. So once prioritized activity have been identified, it's important to document the following information: business function description of the priority, critical activities, dependencies because an activity may depend on another activity. So for example, we might have a priority activity, priority process that we consider as a priority, and another process that's not a priority, but the priority process depends on that non-priority process. So that non-priority process will become priority too, because there's dependency in the system here. Workflow impact, and then impact of not processing. What happens if we do not do the disruption? Disruption could be anything. This business disruption may have unrecoverable and unmanageable impacts on organization. Today, organizations of all sizes and types must engage in a comprehensive and systematic process of prevention, protection, preparedness, readiness, mitigation, response, continuity, and recovery. So that's very important to do it, because we cannot no longer enough to draft a response plan and anticipate and minimize consequences of naturally accidentally potentially cause disruption. Rather, organization must also take adaptive and proactive measures to minimize the likelihood of a disruption. So we have to make sure now. Minimize the likelihood of a disruption is not always easy. If, like for example, COVID-19, but many disruptions we can provide the likelihood of them happening, or at least have a in place something to provide to minimize their impacts. Business continuity principles, top management responsibility. Like any other management system, if top management is not involved and is not taking accountability in the system, it will not work. So top management is ultimately responsible, meaning they are accountable for the result of any disaster that will happen. For efficiency of the business continuity management system, business continuity policies and producers shall be practical, and procedures shall be practical, accessible, and effectively implemented. A well-established business continuity management system addresses the human factor. So the human factor is very important in business continuity management system. Do we have enough people? Who is going to be able to continue working? And how people will react when there is a disruption. So people health and physical safety should be the main consideration of a business continuity plan. We need to make sure that our people, they are protected, our employees and our customers and our suppliers, our society, and whatsoever. So the business continuity management system should address how the organization react to major disruptions that affect the organization's activity for which are responsible. Major operational disruptions pose a significant risk to the continuity of the organization operation. All organizations should incorporate the risk of a major operational disruption in the business continuity plan. So this is very important. We are talking about disruptions. We have to make a list of disruptions, and have to make the list of the source of disruptions. What are the sources of these disruptions? Where they will come from? So we talked about natural disaster, for example. Talked about pandemics, explosion, strikes, whatsoever. What are the major sources of disruption, and what would be vulnerable? What will not work? Okay, if we have that disruption. So top management will play a major role in this. Communication is very important when we have to talk about business continuity management system, because we need to communicate with our employees, we need to communicate with our customers, we need to communicate with our suppliers. For example, today in COVID-19, how we communicate with everyone. Some people probably in their website can have something in the website to tell so whosoever customer or supplier, during this disruption you can call us at this number, or you can contact this person or whatsoever. So we need to identify person responsible for internal and external communication. Who would communicate with customer, who would communicate with supplier, who would communicate with banks, with insurers, and how we communicate internally among employees. Address relevant issues that may emerge during a major operations disruption. What are the issues? So for example, in our organization, we have created a group team on WhatsApp, so we are communicating, all of us doing so, and we divided, and we are doing regular meetings through Zoom. Testing is very important, and there is a standard on testing for the ISO 22301. So we need to test our business continuity plan, test our strategies, and see if they are working, they will be working properly with time. Now we look at the sections of the standard 4 to 10. So here is the section structure, the structure of the standard. Like as I said, 10 clauses, 1 to 10. 4, context of the organization. 5, leadership. 6, planning. 7, support. 8, operation. 9, performance evaluation. And 10, improvement. These clauses are now common and standard for all management system standards: quality, environment, health and safety, business continuity, information security, food safety, and you name it. All right. So whatsoever standard, management system standard in ISO, they will all have the same 10 clauses with the same titles. The content might be different, but same titles. Okay. Context of the organization, section 4. So in section 4, we have context of the organization, 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, understanding the organization in its context. Here, in regards to business continuity management system, are we ready? Do we know what are the, our context internally and externally? Internal context, what are our product and services? What are our priorities? Which activity is a priority? Which activity is the priority number 1? So that's the context. Do we know them? Do we have enough resources? Do we have enough people? Do we have enough infrastructure? Okay, so that's our internal context that we need to look in regards to business continuity management system. Is everyone aware of the meaning of business continuity management system internally? Do they know what to do if there is a disruption? Do they know how to communicate with each other if there's a disruption? That's the internal context. If you don't have that, then you're not working properly. So we need to make sure we understand that internal context. And external context, like any other external context, you need to look at your political situation, society situation, legal situation, environmental situation, technology situation, financial situation. So all the what we call pastel things that we need to look externally. Understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. So in business continuity management system, who are the interested parties if there is a disruption? Okay, we make a list of those and we see what they need from us during a disruption, what we will do for them during a disruption, those interested parties. Determining the scope of business continuity, where the business continuity management system will be implemented, financial, IT, everything, all right? So usually a smart thing to say, we want to look at our priorities and have a business continuity management system for our priorities. What would make our organization fail or stay in business? Then we go for that minimum scope. So this is the minimum scope of your business continuity management system, is to develop and implement and maintain a business continuity management system within those activities, product and services, processes that are crucial for you. Priority number 1, if they are not there, you have a trouble. So that's the minimum scope that you want to put in place. Then you have also the business continuity management system. These are the processes that you need to implement, establish, implement to manage your system. That's section 4. Section 5, leadership. Like any other standard, you need to have leadership. Top management shall ensure that business continuity is compatible with the organization's strategic orientation. One of the issues of leadership I find very interesting in many standards is that many times top management of organizations, they are not very well familiar with the concept we are talking about. So if we are talking about business continuity management system, what is the knowledge of top management about business continuity management system? Do they know what does it mean? Do they understand it? Do they know how to deal with it? Because many times when we do audit, we find that top management of organizations are not really aware of those concepts. They leave it for a business continuity team to deal with it. But in reality, they should be aware of that, understand it very well. So top management, they should understand it so they integrate business continuity management system within their business processes. Make sure what resources we need for the business continuity management system, team, the person in charge or the function in charge of business continuity management system, we need to assign them, give them roles and responsibilities, and how we communicate, and importance of effective business continuity management system. So that's the role of top management and their commitment to make sure this is working. We need to have a policy for business continuity management system. Top management shall create a business continuity policy that shall be available and communicated to all interested parties. You can put it on your website and will be available for everyone. The policy shall be aligned with the purpose of the organization and shall include business continuity objective, commitment to fulfill business continuity requirements, and a commitment to continue improvement. So you have 3 commitments here, okay, that you need to put in your policy to make sure they are in place. Roles, responsibilities, and authorities. Again, here in our day-to-day operation, we have people doing their job and we know their roles, responsibilities, authorities. However, here we are talking about roles, responsibilities during a disruption, for example. Who would take the lead during a disruption? Who will be in charge of recovery? Who will be in charge to communicate? So this is very important. So we're talking about roles, responsibilities, authorities in regards to business continuity management system, not in regards to the day-to-day operation. Who will do the testing? Who will do the exercising of the business continuity plan? Who will make sure the business continuity plan is working? Okay. Who will make sure that we come back to work normally? So these are people from among the organization that will be in charge of business continuity management system, and they will have specific roles and responsibilities and authorities related to business continuity management system. Clause number 6, which is planning. So we need to have action to address risks and opportunities. Based on section 4, that we have identified our context, like issues in our internal issues and our external issues, issues with our interested parties, we will consider those as potential risks for us or potential opportunities, and we need to evaluate them and assess them and make sure they are under control. Business continuity objectives and planning to achieve them. Okay, we put objective for our business continuity and how those objectives will be achieved. No objective will be achieved without a plan. And if there are any changes, how we manage changes in our organization in regards to business continuity management system. Clause number 7, resources. It's very important in business continuity management system to identify what resources are needed. We know in every business, in every organization, some organizations, they know what resources they need to operate normally. But here we are talking about what resources do we need to operate normally and before a disruption, during a disruption, and after a disruption. What are the resources that we need here? Who are our partners in disruptions? With whom do we need to deal with disruption? Okay, how we talk to external bodies during disruptions. So resources are very important for disruptions. People, infrastructure, environment, knowledge, and whatsoever. This is very important. These are resources that you want to make sure that you have them in place. And as I said earlier, in terms of people, do we have any, for example, succession plan? If something, like for example, COVID-19 today, well, who knows, someone can get sick because of COVID-19, and who's going to replace that person? Hopefully only get sick, not more than that. But and if you have like top management, sometimes they are not young people, they could be old people. So what is the succession plan if something happened during a disruption? That's a resources issue that you need to worry about. Competence, and also here we need to make sure that people are competent in dealing with business continuity management system, and they understand it and they know how to implement the business continuity plan. Competence mainly during a disruption, okay, how you deal with that. Awareness, okay, make sure that everyone is aware of the policy, objective of business continuity management system, aware of the business continuity plan, aware of the roles to implement a business continuity plan. What do I do when there's disruption? Make sure that we understand the consequences of not implementing the controls that are in place. Communication, we already discussed that. Communication is very important. Internal and external communication is very important. And we need to have documentation for our business continuity management system. Section 8, as you see, we're going too fast because we only have 1 hour. So we can, usually this is a program that will take maybe 5 days, as a minimum 2 days, but okay, we're trying to make it in 1 hour. Operational planning and control, like any other management system, you need to, as we said earlier, business continuity is about identifying your products, services, and activities. Here, operation planning and control, you are defining your activities, meaning your processes, how your processes will operate, what type of processes you need to have in place. Section 8.2, business impact analysis and risk assessment. Here is very important to understand that we need to do a full-fledged risk assessment and have a risk management in place. You can use ISO 31000 as the base for that, or you can use any other standard, but we need to have a risk management, identifying all sources of risk for normal operation, before a disruption, during a disruption, after a disruption, and do a risk assessment. So we have identification of risk, identifying all the sources of risk, which we call them threats, and then what will be the impact of those threats, who is vulnerable if there is a threat. So we identify all the sources. All the sources of the risk and disruptions could be environment, could be health and safety, could be quality, could be IT, could be natural disaster, could be anything that could be a source of risk that you need to identify and analyze that by doing the likelihood and the impact, severity, consequences, and using a formal methodology of analyzing that. And then you do a business impact analysis. Okay, some people may do business impact analysis before, some may do risk assessment before. Some people, they do risk assessment and they include in it all disasters, all disruptions in their risk assessment, and then they take those to become their business impact analysis. So business impact analysis is to analyze the impact of the disruption on your organization. A disruption, what will be the impact of that disruption, okay, and how we will deal with it, okay? So this risk assessment usually is to prevent a risk from happening, but business impact analysis is to deal with a risk if it happens, mainly if it's a big risk, is a disruption. Even in risk assessment, we need to always have something called pre-risk and post-risk. So if before the risk it happens, what we do to prevent it, but if it happens, what is our reactive measures? Here in business impact analysis, what are our reactive measures after a disruption? And have we anticipated a list of disruptions and we put kind of a prevention of measures to minimize the likelihood of those disruptions to happen? As I said, some disruptions we can put measures in place to minimize the likelihood of those disruptions to happening, but some disruptions like COVID-19, well, we don't know until we have a vaccine later on. There is no anything you can do to minimize the likelihood of happening as a pandemic. But okay, of course, you can have measures in place to make sure it will not happen to you as a person, for example, or as a country. But like now we are doing with physical distancing. Some people, they call it social distancing. I call it physical distancing. That's not social distancing. We are now doing social communication. So we are always socially connected, but probably physically we are not connected. So it's better to call it physical distancing instead of calling it social distancing. So yes, we can minimize this sickness or illness or whatsoever virus to happen to a person by being safe, washing your hands properly, physical distancing and whatsoever. That's minimizing the likelihood of this happening to you as a person. But we are talking about minimizing the likelihood of a disruption from happening, which is not always easy. Business continuity strategy and solutions. Once we know what are our product and services, what are our priorities, and what would be our response, what would we need to do to make sure that the impact will be minimized from a business perspective, then we put a strategy, a solution for that. So what is your strategy? Strategy is the overall approach to deal with a disruption. It's not the plan, okay? The business plan will come after the strategy. The strategy first, then the business plan later. So what is your strategy? For example, working from home. Okay, that's a strategy. Working from home. Then what is the plan to work from home? How we control working from home, how we make sure people are working from home, how we make sure that they are doing what they would be doing. That's your business continuity plan. How we make sure we talk to our customer. So if the strategy is to work from home, then you put a plan for that strategy. Strategy is to probably, some people work from home, some people work from office. Okay, how you make sure working from office will not have an impact. So you need to put a strategy, and strategy has a long list. Some strategy could be doing nothing. My strategy, I will wait until it ends. So that's a good strategy. Sorry, this is a non-costly strategy. We will not do anything. Everyone stay home. We're shutting our operation. When the disruption ends, we'll resume work. This will not cost you anything as a plan, but will cost you a lot after, because you're going to resume and maybe you cannot resume your operation. So please understand it very well. When you identify your products, your services, your activities, I said processes that you need to do, and you make priorities, and you identify your minimum business continuity objective. What is the percentage of your operation that must be working to survive? Then you say, what's my strategy to achieve that? What strategy I put in place so I have that minimum business continuity objectives working, so I can get to my recovery time objective happening. Then you put a strategy for that. Then you put a business continuity plan for that. And then once you have a strategy and business continuity plan, you make an exercise. You do testing of your business continuity plan and see it's working. And then before the testing and after the testing, you always evaluate if your business continuity plan is good or not good. I'll give you an example on business impact analysis. This is an example of our body. So if you look here, you have normal operation, 100% normal operation. So as a human being, you are operating normally, nothing wrong, like a business is operating normally, and something happened, cardiac arrest. This is a disruption, okay? This is the cardiac arrest, is the disruption that's happening. So what is the critical asset? The heart. So we say when we talk about identifying our critical product, identifying our critical service, identifying our critical activity. So the critical asset or critical product or service is the heart. What is the critical process, activity? Pumping blood. So we have identified the critical product or service or critical asset, if you want to call it here. And then we have identified our critical activity, pumping blood. Okay, this is the normal operation. This is the disruption. Okay, we have cardiac arrest. So 1 minute, after 1 minute of the arrest, brain cells begin to die, but survival is possible. Here we have no plan, no continuity plan, all right? So after 3 minutes, serious brain damage likely. She haven't done anything. We know our critical assets, we know our critical activity, but we don't have a plan in place. We have no precautions, nothing, no preparedness. 3 minutes, serious brain damage likely. So 10 minutes, brain cells have died, recovery is unlikely, recovery is virtually impossible. So the maximum tolerable period of disruption is the 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Then you have passed that, then there's definitely a death. Now, if we go to a business continuity plan in place, so we have normal operation, 100%. We have set and informed everybody in the organization that if there's a cardiac arrest, you call 999. Okay, in some countries, in Lebanon, I don't know, is what's in Lebanon? 112? The number in Lebanon. We have to put the number for Lebanon. And in Canada is what?
911.
911 in Canada. Okay. Canada is 911. Okay, I don't know in Lebanon. I guess one. Okay. So you call, all right. What is your recovery time objective? Less than 1 minute. What is your minimum business continuity objective? 40% of normal. So if the blood, if the heart is pumping blood at 40%, that is the minimum for survival, okay? So that's the minimum for survival, minimum business continuity objective, 40%. So you need a CPR, okay? Someone will perform a CPR on the person having heart attack. So this is someone is trained on that, someone who knows how to do it. So we are prepared for that. 1 minute. So then after 3 minutes, we use a defibrillator, because then we call an ambulance and we go to the hospital. 10 minutes and patient is stabilized, then is recovery. So with the business continuity plan, yeah, you're going to pass through disruption, and then your business will not operate at 100%, will operate at 40%, but after that you have a chance to recover and go back to normal. So this is a very nice example you can see here on showing on how to understand business continuity, business impact analysis. So this is an analysis on the impact of a disruption. Disruption is the cardiac arrest. Unlike the risk assessment, which is a risk assessment on any type of risk, be it a disruption or non-disruption. We do a risk assessment for everything, and not every risk in the organization is a disruption. So we do a risk assessment, but we do also business impact analysis. As I said, consider it like the emergency situations that you need to put in place for your organization. Section 9 is performance evaluation. Like any other management system standards, you need to always do monitoring and measuring and analysis of your system. So you monitor, measure, analyze, and evaluate your processes and how they operate. You evaluate your business continuity plan, how it's working. You do internal audit, and you make management review. And then you have continuous improvement at the end, which is you have to take everything to non-conformities and corrective action to make sure that your system is working properly. Any question? So hopefully we gave you something today on your business continuity management system. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Thank you very much for attending and listening. Of course, it was a very quick and fast way of explaining, because we wanted in 1 hour to explain the whole standard. Okay, we took less than 1 hour. That's fine. Good. We have a few minutes for discussions if you would like to have some discussion.